All right, so what has been the biggest change in you during this time of COVID? What's been your biggest change? Less sports?
Having to wear a mask.
Having to wear a mask is a change.
I have become, in my words, not my words, in the words of my sons, more insulated to where the only person I ever talk to is Stephanie.
More insulated, just by one person.
I'm just.
Let's go to the other side of her door.
Well, the only person I've ever talked to is
Now
myself.
you're down.
You become insulated. You've insulated yourself.
So you came full circle and went back to what was on my
Yeah, well, you gotta practice your humor on somebody.
I know our circumstance isn't exactly the same, but I think this applies to everybody, is we're learning step by step instead of having this plan for the next year. You know, you just take it slower, I guess. You take it day by day because you don't ever know and you're not in control. So that's been good for me, actually. I'm such a controlling planner. It's been good to just, you know, we'll take it one step at a time. But I think that applies to everybody during COVID.
The less busyness has been nice at times.
Less busyness. We're not in control on what tomorrow is.
Family home a lot more.
Family's with us a lot.
There's also just, when you look at the big picture, so many little things we worry about, we don't care about anymore. I'd say not care, but it's not the focus, it's not the emphasis. In the big picture of it all, we're like, you know what? This is little, this is minute, or, well, we used to focus so much on this, but man, who cares anymore? That's not even a big deal. Or we don't get worried if it's taken away, or this, or, you know.
Priorities have changed.
I think with a lot of the college kids here in town that are not at home, we are pretty involved with Broadway's college group since Sarah's there as an intern. And they have seen, Sarah gets a lot of emails from tech students who are like, I've been here 3 months, I haven't met anybody, I haven't been able to go do anything, I'm gonna leave. And they get, and I guess maybe because everyone's tired of being on campus, Paul said they have a lot more tech students than normal, and Broadway has a lot more LCU students, because they're all wanting to get out and go do something.
Interesting.
Because Gary, the college minister, he's talked to the elders at Broadway a lot, and they're allowed to keep, even when they shut down, college groups allowed to keep doing stuff, because he considers them an at-risk group. If we get quarantined, we have a spouse, a house, a backyard, they have 4 walls.
Yeah.
Like their anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, and all that is coming up. So.
I was gonna ask how many people your stress level has gone up, your worry level has gone up, your frustration level has gone up.
I think if you look at what's happening in our country, I mean, that's all you see is hate on hate.
Yeah, hate has gone up from other levels of frustration, right? I think I've told you, but I've heard and experienced the #1 medical spend right now for us is mental depression. It surpassed every other medical spend that we have right now. It just, you know, and I'm experiencing things at work I've never experienced before with my teams. People who are having to go out and they're out for a long time. And yeah, so, but now in I don't even know what month it is now we've been doing this. This is becoming normal, kind of, right? All these kinds of things, somewhat. Just tough situations, tough things going on, right? So
I was just gonna point out, you know, this is, I don't know, for me, I can see both sides of, you know, someone that is super paranoid or super cautious. I can see their point of view, and then the one that says, man, why don't we just live our life? I can see that point of view. So it's hard to, for me, it's hard to be on one,
I can't be, we're not on one side.
we're not on one
We
side.
see the realness of it, we see this, but we're over it and ready to, like, when do you rebel? When do you say, I don't wanna?
yeah, I'm
So it's hard to,
Okay.
it's hard to know where to not pick a side, but for to know what to.
Where to stand.
Where to stay.
Where to stand, where to operate, where to go, and all these things. And I don't know when this survey was that Sean gave me, but, the last survey they did, he didn't say who it was from exactly, but women have seen, they're up to 71%. They've seen an increase in their stress emotions. And then in the younger age group, this is very interesting. 81% of Americans under 30 have experienced stress, depression, and frustration. Huge increase, 70% in the age 30 to 44. As you get into the older ones, 62% age 45 through 59 are seeing an increase, and adults 60 and older are down in the 40s. So,
Deal with it a little bit better than you.
they've possibly been through some things. I know my parents are going stir crazy, so.
You know, something that I found fascinating is, talking to Connor's counselor or his therapist. And, you know, he's basically the guy in charge of everything that's bad that comes to Covenant Children's, you know. And for his patients, this has been fantastic for them because they haven't had school, which caused a lot of their problems. And so for the kids who were not normal to begin with, this has been a fantastic thing for them. So it's almost been a shoe flip, whereas the other kids who were functioning normally, this has been a horrible thing.
Yeah.
It's, you know, different point of view.
That is interesting. I wonder, on that, I'm just curious now, is there a lot of anxiety there to go back?
Yes. Yeah, especially since a lot of the schools have eliminated the at-home education. So there has been issues with some of those kids having to get back into public school, where for the last 6 months, they have gotten dramatically better, you know.
I have a couple that have come back that they're trying to get into like the new, Cooper has what's called New Hope Academy. They're trying to get transferred into there because I've had one come back, she didn't want to do group work because she can't work with other people and is scared of books. Like her and another girl work by themselves. I've had a couple that, and they have so many absences now.
I mean, this is I don't know if you've seen the meme of the dumpster fire that's floating down the river and burning everything that it goes, but that's kind of what this year is, right? So this kind of fits right in, into what, our lessons have been about. So I don't know if you've heard of Viktor Frankl, but he was born in 1905 in Vienna, Austria, passed away in 1997. And he had a medical degree and a PhD degree from the University of Vienna, published books, received dozens of honorary degrees, lectured around the world, been at Harvard. This is a very smart guy. So, and he said, this is one of the most famous quotes: "Forces beyond your control can take away everything you possess except for one thing, your freedom to choose." That's very important right there. Your freedom to choose how you will respond to the situation. You cannot control what happens to you in life. You can't control these things that are happening to us, right? But you can always control what you will feel and what you will do about what happens to you, right? This is, I don't know how many of you know the backstory of Viktor Frankl. So he was a Jew. In 1942, he and his family were sent to my German is not very good, but the Theresienstadt, I don't think, concentration camp where his father died. Then in 1944, the surviving family was taken to Auschwitz, where his mom was, in his words, exterminated. His wife died later at another concentration camp. Frankl observed the brutality and degradation around him in these concentration camps, which was horrible. I mean, this is just a deplorable place, right? He theorized that those inmates who had come to find meaning in their life were the only ones who were going to survive. They had to those who didn't wake up in the mornings, they would not make it that day. They would die. In 1946, he would go on to write, in 9 days, he wrote his best-selling book, Man's Search for Meaning. The book has several million copies. It's in 20 different languages. How could someone like Viktor Frankl, who had lost his parents, his spouse, seeing the unspeakable evils in this world, how could he have the courage to keep on living? I mean, he lost everything. You can see that this is horrible. Just this mental situation that he was in, to see this every single day was terrible, right? There's some truth behind this that we're going to dig into that Paul figured out a long time ago, right? So that we tend to forget, I think, when we're prioritizing things, when we're looking at our situation. So that leads us to this. Our quote is, "Peace does not change circumstance. Circumstance does not change peace." I had to read this like 5 times. I don't know about y'all, but I had to keep reading it going, what? So peace does not change your circumstance, and it's just the opposite, right? Your circumstance does not change your inner peace. Shouldn't, right?
Maybe say, yeah, shouldn't.
Should, yeah.
Sometimes it
Yeah.
does. But
Sometimes it does, right? So, your peace doesn't change the situation you find yourself in, but it will affect your attitude and your ability to handle it. You know, going back to that situation, right? We have the ability to choose our response. We can't control what's happening to us again, but we have the ability to choose our response, right? I always use the simple one that my kids always come to me. He makes me so angry. No, Bryce does not make you angry. He frustrates me, but I choose my response, right? Brock has to choose his response to Bryce, his brother, right? So, Viktor Frankl understood that important choice. Paul understood this long before Frankl about his response, how he would feel, his attitude, and what he was going to do. So, we noted in week 7, right, the Holy Spirit had to keep Paul from going to Asia, right, because it wasn't the right time. Then what we're going to come up against is Paul was arrested and he was thrown into prison, right? We learned that last week. For many of us, prison would feel like a death sentence. To Paul, it was a completely different situation, right? He was thrown into prison. Paul had been super busy. He was out preaching. He went through all of Asia. Now we got to see all that. Now he's coming to this place where, and things were probably working pretty good, right? Now he's coming to prison. Complete stop, right? So what's Paul going to do in that, right? So we're going to go through a couple of his letters in the text to kind of look at his attitude, the value of these letters to the church, right? How he was unjustly imprisoned, how people were talking about him, and what was Paul's response to all these bad things that happened, right? And what can we learn from them? So let's turn to Philemon chapter 1. And we got it kind of chopped up here. So there's verse 1, then verse 9 through 13, and then we're going to add verse 23 onto the end here to kind of look at that. But we're in Philemon 1 here. So Paul, a prisoner for Christ Jesus. Then I'm moving up to verse 9. I, Paul, an old man and now a prisoner also for Christ Jesus. I appeal to you for my child, Onesimus, whose father I became in my imprisonment. Formerly he was useless to you, and now he is indeed useful to you and to me. Continuing on to verse 12. I am sending him back to you, sending my very heart. I would have been glad to keep him with me, in order that he might serve me on your behalf during my imprisonment for the gospel. Epaphras, and then skip it up to verse 23. Epaphras, my fellow prisoner in Christ Jesus, sends greetings to you. So Paul's writing this letter, he's in prison, right? What's the thing that Paul's focusing on?
Serving others.
Serving others. Paul's not thinking about his own situation, his own little pity party there in this horrible, horrible place, right? Paul's thinking about, hey, this guy he could stay here and help me, but I got to send him back. I got to send him back to you, Father. I got to get him back, right? He's thinking of everyone else but himself, right? Because he could sit there and have his own little pity party and do that, right?
Well, it's if you think about how the situation is playing out, is Onesimus going, on visitation days to Paul in prison and said, hey, you got to help me with this thing I'm struggling with. I need to go back. I'm scared. And, Paul's sitting here in prison and he's giving out, counseling advice or whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it always struck me as funny.
Yeah, it is just Paul's choice in this situation, his response is so different to this tough situation. And he's like, hey, gonna send him back, right? He's honoring it. He's honoring others, unselfish. Yeah, wants to send him back. So go to Colossians chapter 4, verse 18. It's a real short one here. I, Paul, write this greeting with my own hand. Remember my chains. The last part is a real important one here. Grace be with you. So he's writing this to the Colossian church, right? Colossae. Grace be with you. Again, he's thinking of them, not himself. Grace to you. And then Ephesians 3:1. We're skipping around a lot here at a couple of these, but another short one. For this reason, I, Paul, a prisoner of Christ Jesus, on behalf of you Gentiles, right? And again, he's thinking, remember Paul's talking about going to the Jews and the Gentiles. Here it is. He's already writing to them. And then in Ephesians 4:1, that says Ephesus. That's not, it's Ephesians. I, therefore, a prisoner for the Lord, urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you have been called. Then so here's our main one here, Ephesians 6:18 through 20. Skip up to Ephesians 6:18 through 20. So praying at all times in the Spirit, with all prayer and supplication. To that end, keep alert with all perseverance, making supplication for all the saints and also for me, that words may be given to me in opening my mouth boldly to proclaim the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains, that I may declare it boldly as I ought to speak. So right here, Paul loved the church, right? He asked for prayers to be boldness. The very thing that got him thrown into prison, he continues to pray for and ask for them to pray for him, right? Continue to give me this boldness, right? And then Philippians 1:12 through 18. Let's turn there. This is the one that we're going to kind of dig into a little bit. Philippians 1:12 through 18. So, I want you to know, brothers, that what has happened to me has really served to advance the gospel, so that it has become known throughout the whole imperial guard to all the rest that my imprisonment is for Christ. And most of the brothers, having become confident in the Lord by my imprisonment, are much more bold to speak the word without fear. Some indeed preach Christ from envy and rivalry, but others from goodwill. The latter do it out of love, knowing that I am put here for the defense of the gospel. The former proclaim Christ out of selfish ambition, not sincerely, but thinking to afflict me in my imprisonment. What then? Only that in every way, whether in pretense or in truth, Christ is proclaimed, and in that I rejoice. So let's look back at this right here. Paul's been falsely accused and thrown into prison. That's bad thing number one, right? Now others are coming along trying to steal Paul's glory, right? They're kicking him while he's down there. They're basically out there saying, Paul's in prison, I'm preaching, I'm getting the spotlight, all those things. And then, but what is it that Paul's perspective is the best on this? Because he's been thrown in prison falsely. People are talking about him behind his back and doing all these things. What's Paul pointing to? What's the thing he's focusing on? He's like this last one here, right? Man, I'm just grateful that Christ is proclaimed, and in that I rejoice. He's not worried about all those other little things going on, right? He's like, man, this is the most important thing right here. People are feeling empowered to spread the gospel because of what my situation is bringing upon them, right? Well, Paul's found the opportunity in prison, right? He's found this opportunity, and he's pointing toward the good things, right? Is that just weird to you?
Well, part of it too is that he also admits or he shows that he doesn't want to be there. I mean, it's not something it's not like, hey, I'm just enjoying this, whatever comes my way.
Yeah, I'm kicking back in this nice air-conditioned place with cable TV.
Right. I mean, he still says, remember my chains, and to me, it's like, hey, don't, pray for me, think about me, and those things. And he doesn't like where he's at. He doesn't, that's not his choice to be there. and if he has druthers or whatever, but he is there, and so he's trying to make the most of wherever he's at. And I think that's good for us, because a lot of times we think, oh, well, we just have to, rejoice at everything that is bad that happens to us, and it's, even he didn't do that, so.
Well, and I would jump on to that and say that the slide that you presented earlier is not correct, that we don't get to choose how we feel. We can't just decide, oh, I'm going to not be emotionally devastated by this thing that just happened. I mean, you talk about being the extreme emotion. Jesus in the garden, that's extreme emotion, okay? And I can sort of understand in the same way, like, okay, so for me, I went through a time in my life when I got fired, and we had to move and had to go through all of this. And I knew logically, this is a good thing. I'm gonna, do these other things, and it's gonna be fine. But that didn't change the emotion at all, right? Jesus knew this is part of the process, right? Yeah, I'm gonna have to be crucified and go through all this. But that clearly didn't change his emotions. I've never been so stressed out that I've sweated blood, right? So a little pushback on one of the earlier slides that just, oh, well, you can just pick however you feel. No, you can't. You can pick what you do.
Right.
Yeah. But I don't, at least in my experience, stuff happens, and even if logically I know this is all gonna work out, it doesn't change how I feel.
That's why I like what you're saying, Russell, too. The way what you described it earlier was your response. And I've probably said it in here before, but your responsibility. And it's just how you deal with the emotions that you have and how you come out of situations. You can choose how you want to respond with your feelings and your emotions, and where does that take you from there?
Yeah.
That's how I always kind of think about it.
It is. The emotions I've been in those situations, right? I would like to choose a different emotion, but how long do I stay stuck in that emotion, right? That's individually for each one of us, right? It's gonna change over time, right? I've thought about that. I heard, was different parents have talked about practicing before for their children to come to them with different situations, right? Because if I'm not getting ready or I'm not prepared, I don't know how you prepare for some of that. How do you prepare for getting fired? I don't know, but different things occur, right? So
I think it depends on our goal, because there's a little bit of not pride, but maybe some kind of confidence and arrogance in there. And I think of the situation of, when we're adamant about something, we are truly all in for something. We're willing to go down with that. And if we do, we're okay with it because we are so adamant about it. And we are 100%, this is what I'm saying and I'm going to stick to, this is what I'm going for. So if there's a consequence, I'll take it. I'll fight it down. I don't care. I get a little bit of that in this. He was fighting for 100% of what he believed in, and there was a consequence for it. And he's like, yep, but I'm okay with that because I'm still going to believe in it. I'm still going to push this.
yeah,
And even when I'm not down with this consequence, that's a negative, but I'm not done.
The thing about Paul and even Saul's personality, he's always chosen the way he feels. I mean, he was the worst of the worst. He imprisoned people, he killed Christians, and he was touched by God personally. But his personality, he's always been, he controls his emotions, whether it's for evil or whether it's for good. And so for him being in prison probably doesn't have the same state as for us, because he was doing that to others for so long. I mean, God personally changed him.
yeah, he was. He was over here and he had this and he was going forward. Now he's changed, right? So, and he's just, and we're not seeing everything right, but he's given us a good example of, that trust, looking for the opportunity and the blessing in that difficult situation. And what's he supposed to do, right? And what am I supposed to do? What is my response? Am I looking for the opportunity or am I gonna sit in the pity party, right? And I'm not saying this is easy because I can tell you, all of us have been through different trials. We're going through trials right now, right? You're all going through different trials. I keep talking about Brock, but he's going through a situation where he went 4 years and he was the best at everything he did. And now he's sitting at a school where the coaches could care less about special teams and what he does. And he is so frustrated. And I wish he could see the other side of what's in the future for him, just like for me, and all of us, right? But God says what? Worry about today only, because today has got enough problems of its own. What's going to happen over there? You've got to trust me that it's going to be good, right? That again is so weird, is it not? Is it frustrating? You're like, come on, God, just show me a little bit of what's over there. That's what I want to see. Why did I get fired? Why did this happen? Why did this person die? That's what we want to know, but God's saying what? You got enough problems right here, and you've got to trust me. And that's so hard. It is so hard. So hard.
I was out running recently, and I had a weird, you have those weird things that go through your head. God took his people into the wilderness for 40 years, and it was a lot of, God made us independent. We want to control, and I want to plan, I want to control, and I want to be in charge. And, there was that time for 40 years to kind of, you didn't get to choose what you ate, where you lived, what you did, what tomorrow held for you, to kind of work that out. And I was thinking about that in relation to the COVID world that we're in, where we don't get to plan next month. You get to go on vacation, I don't know. You get to play sports, I don't know. You get to go out, there's, there may be a message there of, again, it's not your world, you're not in control. It took 40 years to work that out in the past. And I wonder if our culture's been to the place, we're 9 months into it, we're about to lose our minds, right? I mean, we're going crazy because we don't get to choose where we go tomorrow. That control is, that desire is deep within us. And I think sometimes God has to work a little bit to humble people and humble your spirits and let you know you're not really the person in control.
Yeah. And yep, it is. Yeah. They did 40 years and we're doing 9 months and we're just like,
We're done.
I'm done, I'm not wearing masks on.
But you can see how we act
Yeah.
in the 9 months and understand now. When you
Why
want
they
to
go to
look back
Golden
at them and go, you dummy.
Yeah.
You stupid, what's wrong with
God was
y'all?
providing everything for you. What were you thinking?
What's wrong? And we're sitting here doing the same
We're,
thing.
we're not much run.
That 40 years, all those guys died.
Yeah.
If we're in this for 40 years, I'm saying.
I know.
That's not the end of the world.
Like for March, when I packed up my stuff and left my office, I thought, we'll be back here next week. And then, and I asked people last week, do you think we'll be back next week? And I was like, oh yeah, we'll be back next week. And then April came. Oh, okay, it's just another week. And then May.
We're still in March, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and reality starts to set in. I'm gonna be at home, right? With my dogs, just me and my dogs. And now, in my vacation for Brock's graduation, gone. And then and then if we get into this,
You also, on the other side, you think, what would have happened if Paul hadn't had gone to prison, if he hadn't had these trials? Would the other people have been so bold and started speaking more?
Paul was so.
How many letters did he write, in prison? So,
Right to the point, we would not have these letters. if Paul had gone to prison, right?
you always say, man, if this wouldn't have happened, this wouldn't have happened. You always look back at it. It's hard to do it in a moment, but always look back and say, this wouldn't have happened if this would have happened.
Yeah. I mean, Paul was so busy, he didn't have time to write these letters. God says, stop, put you in prison. And Paul chose to write these letters, right? Start focusing on different people, on different things, right? We've talked about all these things that have happened to us. So what's stealing your peace? In terms of the meditation, what do I run to when I want to find peace? What's stealing your peace today? I can tell you in March and April, when I was sitting there every single day, just thinking, okay, we're going to get out of this. I'm going to go back to work. I just had days where I was just sitting there, I just sat there staring at the computer screen. When it's at 5 o'clock, then I'd schedule meetings. I'd find some energy, then come down, gotten better now. I got way too many meetings, but what's stealing your peace for right now, today?
All the little stresses.
All the little stresses? What kind of little stresses?
Well, not knowing what's gonna happen on Monday the 30th. We all have speculation if our football team loses, we won't come back. If they win, we'll come back.
It's all depending on the
Keeping it
football
real.
team.
Just keeping it real.
Yeah, I think that, we're all human, right? So, and I think we have certain like levels that we can, essentially, even physically, your body will eventually shut down if you put too much stress on it, right? And so I think we've gotten to that point where we've had this big thing happen and it's changing lots of things. And now all these, and I'm not saying they're little, but things that would not have like sent us in a whirlwind before, we're already kind of on edge. And so little things just set us off. And I see it. We've had a lot of change this last year with work too. I worked for a startup that got purchased and now we're trying to be integrated. So, my org charts are changing, my product that I'm supporting is changing, all those kinds of things. And it's like every other week, something new is happening. And, like we talked about before, I can freak out about these things and I say, well, okay, great. That's not the job, those kind of things. But I've seen other folks that literally they have shut down at times and said, I cannot, I have to take off 3 days because I can't take any more change or any more different. And I just think people are reaching that. And that's why I think you see a lot of, spikes and homicides and different things like that. It's just people are on edge and just like their bodies are like, I can't take any more like stress and compaction of my life or whatever,
Yeah, it is.
We
So,
want to be in control.
Yeah.
And we struggle when we're not in control with what we get to do tomorrow and the next day, where we go. This concept of not having control, of being in charge. There's probably some humility.
yeah, and in each trial, as I've learned it from this so old, takes me forever, but in the trial, what is God trying to teach me? The sooner I learn that, I see that generally some things start to change a little bit, right? Sometimes, not always, because Bryan's stubborn, and he wants to be in control, and it takes him forever to learn whatever God's trying to teach him. And so, all those types of things. Yeah, and then from Paul's example, the thing we're tying it back to is what have you started doing differently that God hopefully taught you during this time, right? For me, I think I told you guys, I took a big old comfy chair that somebody wanted to sell in our house, and I wanted to keep it. And so one sold, I got to keep this one. I had to shove it in my office, has too much stuff, right? First world problems, right? So, anyway, but I have this chair now, and I have a prayer journal, and that's where I do my prayer every single morning. I've talked about it and set it as a goal for 5 years and never did it. God took this time, and even during this pandemic, it took me till June, March, April, May, for me to go, okay, I think I need to start doing this, right? This is what I need to start doing. This is one change. Now, there's been other changes where I still veg out way too much on TV, but there's a good balance, right? Because we can watch Mandalorian, right? But this other
Still
stuff.
reality.
Yeah. But are there better things I could do with my time? Are there better things I can do? Yes, there are. And I need to start doing those things, right? And, we learned this morning, right? So, more family time, right? So we're empty nesters, but we have, a kid coming back after college. So what are we going to do to do better? What's going to be my do better, right?
If you'd like to practice,
I should have known I was going to get from these two right here. Hey, I got plenty of kids to share.
And I think it's important for us to focus, when we're so inwardly focused, it's easier to get stressed and anxious, but when we're focusing on other people and what's going on in other people's lives, there is always somebody that's going through something more difficult than you are.
Yes.
I can testify to that. But I think when we focus on those other people, we're not so concerned with the little things. And that's easier said than done in our pandemic, but there's still ways that we could reach out to people and focus on others and help others.
Yeah, there is. Where is our focus? What are we learning? And who are we helping? What are we doing? It brings glory to God in every situation, right? Even as difficult as it is, right? We get to choose what we're going to do, right? And how we're going to respond, right? I don't know if y'all were in church this morning with Santiago. And that one hit hard, right? There's people who come here and we've not said a word to them. But they didn't feel wanted. something like that. That breaks my heart. Because that's on me too. I missed saying hi to somebody, right? Because I was too focused on whatever I was gonna do. I gotta get to class and I gotta teach this lesson, right? And instead I should be having my eyes open for every opportunity God's putting in front of me. I need to look for those. I need to find those opportunities to do that. Right? I need to look for those. I need to find in the bad situations or whatever's going on, I gotta make the change that God wants me to do. Well, last thing here, Father, let me always find my peace in you. I encourage you, share that with your children so that they'll start to learn early where they need to put their focus during the stressful times, right? When they're in that situation, help them to look to God. He's not going to provide the immediate answer, but that's where we need to look. Share that with your kids. That was something I thought was super important, for that prayer idea. So, and, just again, the thing that I hope you got out of this today was in every difficult situation, right? Look and focus on God and find how you can bring that to His glory. Maybe it's writing a letter, maybe it's starting something different that you're not doing today. Stop doing something, start doing something. Playing cards with your kids, having a conversation with somebody. Looking for opportunities. I'm still looking for that opportunity to share Christ. I'm still looking. And right now it doesn't help because I don't get out of the house unless I'm going to Walmart to get some Sudafed right now. That's about it because I have allergies. But I got to start finding somebody to talk to Christ about. I got to start doing that. Thanks, guys. We went over, but anyway. Oh, sorry, Brent.
Just a quick, I'm posing a question, not related directly to this. We're designed to be relational, right? That's what God designed us to be, not only emotionally, but physically and interactively, right? So, a question I pose to you, how important do you think these classes are? And what do you think the consequence would be if we shut them down for a while?
I can tell you what will happen because it happened this summer, is nobody will show up on Zoom.
So, if you feel that this is a good and safe thing, give me your feedback, because decisions are being made. And so I'd like your feedback on that, if you really think that this is important to continue.
I need people.
I need people.
I need people really bad. I need you people.
Yeah, I gotta say,
I look forward to seeing you.
We can't do it so much in the auditorium, but this is a better forum for that, right?
Yeah.
You can actually have more interaction. But if it's important to you, then get that feedback to me. I've got some already, but there you go.
It's important.
It's hard to get through the week not having Wednesday. That was always my favorite time.
Yeah.
And Zoom, I don't know what it is about Zoom, but Zoom's such a negative now that I don't want to get on this.
You can see the difference.
Well, and I'm struggling because I know they're meeting teachers and stuff for the winter quarter. I've gotten 3 texts from Mendez and Courtney. And I'm like, I can't hit reply, I'll help you, because I'm like, but I don't want to be in my class because I need people. So it's hard,
And if you look around, how many people are not in our class
a lot.
that were here pretty steadily for a long time?
There's a kind of a spiritual consequence, spiritual fatalities even, I think, if we're not careful.
I put that in our survey, when y'all sent the survey out with before we came back, was I think too many people, it's easier to not participate and not do. We're getting in that routine versus making it a routine. So we were so eager to get back into, I hate to say it as routine, but definitely making it a routine.
This slot, is getting replaced by something else, and it happens quickly. Yeah, and I know the devil does that because, Sunday nights, that's happened to us before where we stopped coming for a little while.
Yeah.
But something else got in that slot, and boom, we're done. Until we had a wake-up call, did we get back into that slot, right? And Wednesday nights, we're missing that, and those types of things.
It is a balance, weighing physical versus spiritual casualties.
Yes.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's so hard to be on one side or the other because I can be persuaded one way or the other.
Yeah, because my parents, right? Older people at risk, But then there's this that we need, our spirit needs this.
We talked about wanting to be like the early church. When did the early church ever meet that you didn't have a risk of death? Just straight up.
Thank y'all.
How are you?